Hey, what's up, guys? This is Ain't Nobody Squeaky Clean. And as always, I appreciate you for joining the podcast. You could have chosen to be anywhere else, but you came here. And I appreciate you for it. I know it's been a little while since the last episode, but I wanted to make sure I had some good content for you guys. And if you haven't been checking it out, if you are a subscriber to Ain't Nobody Squeaky Clean, you do see that I'm doing a ton of short videos whenever stuff pops into my head, man, just to get content to you guys. The whole purpose of this is to make sure that I teach and that we learn, because I revisit some of the videos myself just to learn. Because sometimes when you're preaching to others and you're learning along the way, you're not really absorbing it. So I go back myself so we can learn this material together. Again, the goal and the purpose is just to put information out there so that you or our kids or our family and friends can learn different things, because we don't touch on all knowledge that is out there and readily available. So I'm trying to make it readily available for you and for me. So anyway, again, thank you for joining. So today, I want to talk about Mr. LeBron James. But we're not talking about basketball. We're not talking about championships. We're not talking about who's the GOAT, because it's not LeBron. But anyway, today we're talking about money. And this is because I saw a story that stopped me in my tracks. Apparently, back in 2018, right around the time LeBron James was preparing to sign that massive contract with the Lakers, an LLC controlled by LeBron borrowed almost $300 million. Not $3 million, not $30 million, almost $300 million. And guess who reportedly provided the money? Life insurance companies. Now, when I first saw the headline, I'm thinking, wait a minute. What does life insurance have to do with lending LeBron James $300 million? And that's when I started digging into it. Because once you understand what actually happened, there's a financial lesson here that I don't think most of us were ever taught. So, the headline doesn't tell the whole story. Let me clear something up. LeBron didn't walk into an insurance company and say, hey, I have a life insurance policy. Can I borrow $300 million against it? That's not what happened. According to reporting released, an LLC controlled by LeBron borrowed almost $300 million from two Midwestern life insurers. The transaction was advised by an arm of Guggenheim Partners. And here's the important part. The financing was backed by future revenue from LeBron's business and endorsement income, including income connected to his lifetime Nike relationship. The bonds reportedly aren't due until 2049. So think about that. They weren't just looking at how much money LeBron had in his checking account. They were looking at how much money is this man's name going to generate over the next several decades. And apparently, the answer was a lot. So here's the simple version. I'm going to put this in regular people language. Imagine somebody tells you, hey, based on the contracts you already have, you're probably going to receive $20 million over the next 25 years. So now I have two choices. I can wait. Year one, get some money. Year two, get some more money. Year three, get some more, and continue doing that for decades. Or I potentially go to somebody today and say, you know this money is coming. I know this money is coming. How much will you give me right now in exchange for me paying you back over time? Now I've turned future income into present day capital. That's essentially the concept we're talking about here. Now, why would somebody as rich as LeBron borrow money? And this is where I think a lot of us misunderstand wealth. Somebody hears LeBron borrowed $300 million, and immediately thinks, damn, LeBron needed money? Nah, that's the wrong question. The better question is, why would somebody who already has tremendous wealth choose to borrow instead of using his own money? Because wealthy people don't necessarily look at debt the same way the rest of us do. Most ordinary people experience debt because we don't have enough money. Car loan, credit card, mortgage, personal loan. We borrow because we need something and can't pay cash for it. But at another level of wealth, debt can become a financial tool. The question becomes, why spend my capital if somebody will lend me theirs at a cost that makes financial sense? And that's a completely different mentality. So let's use easy numbers. Forget LeBron for a second. Let's just say I have $10 million and I want to buy something that costs $5 million. Most of us would say, well, you've got 10, just pay the 5 million. Okay. But now I only have 5 million left. What if somebody says, instead of spending your 5 million, I'll lend you 5 million at 5%. Now I've still got my original 10 million. If I could invest that capital somewhere else and make, let's say, 8, 10, or 12%, I may prefer paying somebody 5% to use their money while my money continues working somewhere else. Obviously, there's risk. Investment returns aren't guaranteed, and leverage can absolutely backfire. But that is the concept. And here's another piece: taxes. This is another thing that blew my mind when I started understanding how wealth works. Generally speaking, when you borrow money, the loan proceeds themselves aren't considered taxable income because you have an obligation to repay them. If somebody loans you $100,000, the IRS generally doesn't say, congratulations, you made $100,000. No, you owe somebody $100,000. That's a liability. Now, and this is important, that does not mean LeBron magically avoided taxes on all of his endorsement income. That's not what I'm saying. Those underlying earnings can still have tax consequences. But borrowing gives somebody access to liquidity without the borrowed principal itself generally being treated as income. And that is why sophisticated financing can become so powerful. Now let's talk about the insurance company. Because I know somebody listening is saying, why the hell is my life insurance company lending LeBron James money? Because insurance companies don't take every premium dollar they receive and stick it underneath a mattress. They invest money. Same thing banks do. People always wonder, why do banks only give me 0.004%, but yet they're still in business? Because they're taking your money and they're investing it. So they're making that 10 to 12% that you could make, but instead only giving you a fraction of that. It's incredible business, if you can get it. So people are paying premiums today, while claims may not have to be paid for years or decades. So insurers invest substantial amounts of that capital in things like bonds and other assets. And private credit has increasingly become part of that world. In this particular situation, the insurers were essentially investors in debt connected to LeBron's future earnings. From their perspective, they're not doing LeBron a favor. They're looking for a return on investment. And apparently, they did it again. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Reporting says that in 2022, when LeBron signed another Lakers extension, the same insurers bought almost another $60 million of bonds issued through his LLC. Those reportedly carried approximately a 5.75 interest rate. So this wasn't necessarily some random one-time situation. This was a financing strategy. So this is where I start asking questions. And this is why I wanted to talk about this on Ain't Nobody Squeaky Clean. Because I'm in my 50s, right? And I look at some of this stuff and think, why didn't anybody teach us this? We learned get a job, get a paycheck, pay your bills, save your money, try not to get into debt, buy a house, put money in your 401, retire. And there's nothing inherently wrong with any of that. But there's an entirely different financial world operating above us. A world where future income can become an asset, where intellectual property can become an asset, where endorsement contracts can become an asset, where business borrow against cash flow, where wealthy people sometimes borrow money, not because they're broke, but because they don't want to liquidate productive assets. And that is a different education. Don't get the wrong message here. Because somebody's going to hear this episode and they're going to say, oh, Ain't Nobody Squeaky Clean said debt is good. Heck no. That's not what I'm saying at all. If you're borrowing money at 29% on a credit card to buy Jordans, that's not what we're talking about. If you're taking out payday loans to go out here and hit the casino or, just go out here on a spending spree, that's not what we're talking about at all. There's a gigantic difference between consumer debt that takes money out of your pocket and strategic debt used in an attempt to preserve or create additional wealth. Debt is a tool, and like every tool, it can build something or it can destroy you. There's really no in between. Trust me, on Ain't Nobody Squeaky Clean, I understand this better than most. So the part that really hit me, and this is what really got me thinking, LeBron wasn't simply monetizing basketball. He was monetizing LeBron James, his name, likeness, endorsement, businesses, future earning power. Basketball created the platform, but eventually the platform became more valuable than the paycheck. And that is something every young athlete, content creator, entrepreneur, heck, even my own kids need to understand. Don't just ask, how much am I getting paid? Ask, what am I building that has value beyond today's paycheck? That's a completely different question because eventually your labor stops. LeBron can't play basketball forever. We can't work forever. But an asset can continue producing money when you're not physically doing the work. And that is the goal. Think about content creators. And this applies today more than ever. You're listening to content that I created. I'm hoping that Ain't Nobody Squeaky Clean one day becomes a LeBron James level entity. Most people look at this and think, oh, they're an influencer. But you have people that have 500,000, 1 million, 10 million followers. That's a distribution network. The audience has value. The brand has value. The content library potentially has value. The contracts have value. Their intellectual property, future revenue potential, all has value. And that's why I keep saying we've got to stop teaching our kids only how to make money. We've got to teach them how money works. Those are two completely different things. There's another side to this story. And because this show is called Ain't Nobody Squeaky Clean, we're going to pretend everything about sophisticated finance is automatically wonderful. I'm sorry. We're not going to pretend that everything about sophisticated finance is automatically wonderful. Sorry about that, guys. Hey, ain't nobody squeaky clean. Even me. There's a bigger conversation happening right now about insurance companies, private credit, and where insurance capital is being invested. The LeBron transaction is getting attention partly because it's unusual to see an athlete's future endorsement income packaged into this kind of financing. And the broader related business empire has recently been under regulatory and legal scrutiny, although current reporting says there is no indication that LeBron's transactions are connected to investigations, but the company that gave him the money, they've been looking at them a little bit. And that's important. Don't turn a financial story into a scandal that hasn't been established. The interesting part for me isn't what did LeBron do wrong? The interesting question is, how does this financial system work? But as mentioned, you know, there are some things they're looking at, not on LeBron's case, but the company. So we'll see how this plays out, and I'll have a subsequent episode if something changes. Because it is funny that we didn't hear about this until now anyway, some 8 years later. But again, not that we hear everything that every wealthy person is doing. But anyway, here's my takeaway from today's episode. After reading this story, there are levels to financial literacy. Level 1, make money. Level 2, save money. Level 3, invest money. But today we learned about another level. Understand how to use assets, income, credit, leverage, taxes, and time together. And that's the education a lot of us never received. I'm still learning it. And quite frankly, I wish I understood a lot more of this 30 years ago. Because when you're young, you think becoming wealthy is mostly about earning a big paycheck. I know I did. Then you get older and realize income and wealth are not the same thing. A paycheck pays you once. An asset can potentially pay you repeatedly. And once your assets and future cash flows become valuable enough, people may actually pay you for the opportunity to lend you money. And that is a completely different game. So, when you see that headline, LeBron James borrowed almost $300 million from a life insurance company, don't automatically think LeBron was broke. Think, what did lenders believe his future income was worth? Because that is the story. A man's future earning power became valuable enough that institutions were willing to put hundreds of millions of dollars behind it. And maybe the lesson for the rest of us isn't that we need $300 million loan. Maybe the lesson is much simpler. Stop thinking only about today's paycheck and start thinking about what you're building. What do you own? What produces income? What has value without you physically showing up every morning? What can still pay you 10 years from now? Because one day the job ends. One day the career ends. And one day the checks stop. So the question is, what did you build while they were coming? This is Ain't Nobody Squeaky Clean. And remember, ain't nobody squeaky clean, but everybody can learn something. Always. So this was a great one because LeBron has always been looked at as a polarizing figure. Whether you love him or hate him, everybody's talked about him and everybody knows who he is. But what you can't say about LeBron is that he's not a good businessman. He's an incredible businessman from everything that I've read, that I've seen, and everything that's been reported. This was different, right? This was something that many of us don't understand, and that's why it was an opportunity for me to come on here and teach, after doing my research, teach you guys, the handful of you that do listen to my podcast, what it is that he was really doing. I want to promote thought. I want people to think of things and look at things in a different way. Because many of you right now have incredible skill sets, and you have gifts, and you're not getting paid accordingly, and you're not leveraging it properly. And that's primarily because we don't know how to do it, because they don't teach this. No one really wants you to be wealthy. And that's part of the problem, because everybody's trying to figure it out. So why would I help you become wealthy when I haven't figured it out myself? And the ones that have made it and are wealthy are too busy enjoying their wealth to stop and bring you up there with them. So the magic in figuring this out sometimes is just stumbling into wealth. You come up with a great idea, and the next thing you keep researching, and then opportunities fall into your lap. And once you get the opportunities, then you can ask the questions. LeBron James has had dinner with Warren Buffett. Once you get to a certain level, you get access. And with access comes information. And with information comes success. So, today, digest what LeBron is doing. Understand what it means from a business perspective. And figure out what it is you can leverage in your life, what intellectual property you have that can allow you to be in a better place, to be able to move through this world a little bit better, and leverage everything you have. As always, I hope you have a blessed day and a blessed week. And I will talk to you very soon.